Hey, I hope you're doing well today. Today we have the X/Twitter bot, and this is going to be one of the most advanced NA10 Twitter or X bots that you've probably seen. So let's get into it. All right, so you can see right here, we can upload our own account, and this way we can actually see our performance over time and see how many followers we're getting, on a day-to-day basis. We're going to be getting the user data, and these are going to be accounts that, we want to keep track of so we can reply to them. This is how we're going to get their tweets. We're going to reply to the tweets right here as well from the users that we're tracking. We're also going to get top tweets, so we're essentially going to scrape the best performing tweets that are happening pretty much right now and actually reply to those tweets. And we're also going to be repurposing those, winning tweets because these are already performing really well on X, okay? All right, so let's run this right now. So I'm going to get the user data first. I'm going to press this workflow right here. Now, as you can see in the set node right here, I do have 4 usernames, and these are just people that I'm keeping track of so that I can reply to them as well. And we can see Sam Altman in here as well. All these are just random ones that I've just chosen just for the purpose of this demo. And then after that, we have scheduled triggers. So you'll see a lot of scheduled triggers here. This one's running at 3 hours, 12 minutes, 3 hours, 25, 8 hours, 4 hours, 48 minutes. So we don't actually have to do this manually. I'm just doing this for the demo. But now that I have the data here, we can actually open up our Google Sheets, and we can see right here we have the usernames, the user ID, which is going to be important because this is how we're actually going to extract all of their tweets and everything as well. And then we just have a little bit about them, from their profile, the amount of followers, and the time and date that we actually put this and uploaded it. Now after that, let's get the user tweets, okay? So this is actually going to extract and filter out all the bad tweets and then place them into Google Sheets. And this is going to allow us to then reply to them. Okay, so we'll just let this go through the motion. Here we go. It's going to clean up everything through the code node, filter out everything as well. We're upload to the Google Sheets, and right over here we do have the user tweets, and there we go. Okay, so we have the user ID, which is their actual user ID for that account. The status is not done. Obviously, when it's done, it's going to be set to done. The tweet ID, which is going to be the actual conversation ID, and this is crucial for us to actually reply to it. And then their original tweet, so whatever they've posted, and the time that they've actually posted it as well. So jumping over here again, if I click on reply to users now, we'll see it actually take one of those tweets, okay, and then it's gonna go through the AI agent right here, generate the tweet, send it off as a reply, and then update it on here as done. And if I just go to X and I go to replies, and we should have a little reply right here as well, 11 seconds ago. There we go. Now, coming over here again as well, we can also scrape the top tweets. Okay, so let's just test this workflow here as well. And basically this again, so before we had usernames in here, in this set node, we have the search terms. So these are any search terms that you want to be using, to search for the top performing tweets. Okay, so I just have AI news and AI related things. Now, in our Google Sheets here, we can click on top tweets, and there we go. We have all of the top tweets. Now we also have the reply status, the repurpose status. So we know when we can track everything and what, have we already repurposed it? Have we already replied to it? This is how we're going to be tracking things as well. But it's also very important for the automation to understand the actual status. Now, coming over here again, if I exit out of there and I click on reply to top tweets, now we're going to take one of those tweets, okay? We're going to have the AI agent here, formulate a response, a reply, and then reply to one of those as well. And this is going to be really important because this is going to allow us to increase, our exposure within our niche as well. And after that, we can also repurpose, okay? So I'll just click on this test workflow here as well. And with this one, we're essentially taking the winning tweets because their tweets already have a lot of engagement. They have a lot of views. Everything is working well, okay? So essentially all we're doing is just, looking at that tweet, putting it into our own words, and then posting it on our own account as well, okay? So we'll jump through the AI agent right here. That tweet is also posted. So if I jump over back to X, we will have another reply, okay? Let me just refresh that really quick. Okay, so now we have another reply, and we also have our own actual tweet here as well. Now, the actual writing style of all of this is completely up to you. This is all customizable. If you want it to be professional in a certain tone, this is where and how you're going to change it, which I'll get into shortly. Now, the things you're going to need to get all this up and running. you're going to need the Twitter AIO API, okay? And this is going to cost you $5 a month. There is a free plan, but the reason why the $5 one is going to allow you to have no limitations, okay? You can scrape like up to 12,000 requests. You're going to need an open AI API key, for your ChatGPT models. X credentials, okay, so if you don't know how to do that, just visit the documentation NA10. They go through the system. It's, you get set up in like 2 minutes. We'll go through the get user data one really quickly too, okay, so I won't bore you for too long, but let's go through this one in particular. So essentially what we're doing here is we're not putting a schedule trigger on this particular one, because this one here is, we're not having to run it at certain times or certain days. We're just running this based on how many usernames that we need to track. Okay, so I just have a normal when clicking test workflow little trigger on there. That's then coming over to a set node. So if I open this up, this is just where we're going to be placing in usernames. Okay, so basically all we're doing here is we're taking the X username. So if I just jump over here, just click on someone random, and we have the UMesh AI. All right, we would just copy that, come back over here, and let's say I wanted to put another one in here, right? I'd put a comma here, I'd come down, put the quotes, put username _5, put a colon, put another quote, place in that username, put another quote, and that's it, okay? We don't want to be putting another comma, because that comma will actually, cause this JSON here to error out. Now after that, we're just going through a split out, okay? And the reason for that, let me just run this really quick. The reason for that is because we're going to prepare all these usernames for the loop, okay? Because we're going to go through a loop and, one after the other, get the actual data from these accounts. So if I click on test step here, you can see that I have the Twitter usernames. That's just been placed here. And now all of those usernames have been split out into separate little inputs for the next loop. So coming over to the loop here, if I just click on test step, you'll see that we won't actually get all 4 of them coming through, but rather 1. All right. So in the loop branch here, we have the first one, which is just this one right here, row hit on web. And that's just coming through the loop. Actually, I'm just going to run this up to here so we can get the data, because I'm just going to have to remove my API key, unfortunately. So we're going through there, coming up over here to clean account. All right, so all those usernames have been passed through, right? We've gone through the loop. Now in the HTTP request right here, I'm using the endpoint from the Twitter AIO API, okay? I'm using the username endpoint, okay? So by username endpoint. Now in here, it's just a very simple setup. We just have the Rapid API host, okay? And the Rapid API key, and this is just standard for using Rapid API, the platform. And up here is where we have the usernames coming through. So the expression that I'm using is based on the input right here. So Twitter usernames, I've just dragged it to the end of the endpoint URL right here. This has been set as expression, okay? And the result is then we get this endpoint URL, all right? We have a / and then we have that UMesh _AI, and that's going to be the username that we're actually getting the data from, okay? Now, once that goes through, we also want to be putting a wait node, and this is common practice that you should be putting on most of your HTTP requests, especially if you're looping it through, especially if you're doing a lot of requests. The reason why is because if you actually don't put this on, this is actually going to error out, because a lot of APIs and developers set a rate limit to, so it avoids people doing like thousands of requests a second, okay? So this one here, I've just set a wait of just 1 second, and that's enough for everything to run very, very smoothly. That's then coming around, and once it's done, we can see it going up here, going up to the cleaned account. Now in here, because of the actual data that's coming through the API from Twitter, and it's a mess, okay? Because the reason why I say it's a mess is because the data is extremely nested in all of this here, okay? So we only want very specific data, but using like a lot of people just use a split out and then a set node, right? For this in particular, we can't do that because it's very nested and deeply nested in, okay? So what we can do here as a quick, workaround is just use a code node with some custom JavaScript, okay? So essentially all I'm doing here is I have the screen name, so you know, if I can find it here somewhere, you know, there's a screen name, there it is right there. And we can see we have the screen name, we have the REST ID, the follower account, and the description. And I'm just putting all of that through here, okay, cleaning it all up, and then outputting that information onto the right here so that I can, you know, take that information very, very easily. Coming over here now, all we're doing with this is just, you know, a standard Google Sheet setup, okay? So all that information that's coming through, we're now passing it over to Google Sheets, and we're uploading it to our Google Sheet as well, okay? So that information like the username, which is the screen name, the user ID, the about them, so it's like a little profile description that they have, the amount of followers they have, and the created, which is just a expression with today, you know, with the year, month, and date format. Now, after that happens, we're coming over to the get user tweets. Now, in the get user tweets here, this is coming through at an interval of 3 hours and 12 minutes. Okay, so you can see I've set it as hours between triggers, 3 hours, and triggers at minute 12. Okay, and I've just renamed this just so I can very easily scan and understand what the actual interval times are. Once that's coming through, we're going over to and getting the user ID. Okay, so we see we're getting the user ID here. So nothing special is happening here. All we're doing is getting that user ID, because what we need to actually get their tweets and scrape that information from their account is the user ID, which we can see right here, which was actually taken in the first step. So once we have that, I'm just using a little edit fields right here. Okay, we're just placing it here because I don't need any of the other information. That's then passing through another loop. Okay, so we're doing the same, you know, kind of thing here again. We're passing it through. We have the user ID in the loop branch right here, and then that's then going through the get user tweets. So let's run this until the clean. Actually, we'll run it to the filter. All right. So we'll just run this through all the way to the filter, and then I can, you know, kind of go through a little bit easier with you one by one. So again, we just have that little wait node. Same concept here. That's now done. Check duplicates, merge. Now it's coming over to the filter, and then in this HTTP request, the endpoint here is a different one again, okay? Because in this case, we're using the .com/user, and then in between the forward slashes there, we have the actual user ID, okay? So we can see that user ID being placed in between the forward slashes right here, and then tweet s, you know, question mark count equals 10, and then we just have some custom filters. This is just, you know, include retweets set to false, remove replies true, and then remove posts with links true as well. Okay, everything else, yeah, you just have your rapid API key, the hosts and whatnot, and that's all come through. Now we can see here, this is all our data, but now I want to show you how messy all of this data gets. So this is why code node comes in very handy. So it's being passed up here, okay? So we'll see the data load up here in a sec, and here we are. So as you can see, the data that's coming through is a complete and utter mess, okay? And this is why it's going to be very, very hard to just use a split out and a set node. So to find that actual tweet in itself, we have to click on content. We've got to click on item content, tweet results, result, come down here, click on legacy, and then we finally get the full text, and that's their actual tweet. And then we have the favorite count, we have the full text. You can get the language as well if you want. And then just, yeah, more information. But most importantly is the conversation ID string. And this is the string that's going to be actually passed through when you want to reply to them through, you know, your little X tool that you use on your AI agent, okay? It's going to require this so it knows, you know, what actual conversation ID is, all right? So I'll pass you that information through. As you can see, I have the text, I have the created at, I have the conversation ID string, and I have the user ID string as well. All right, so there's one important thing that you really have to know as well. In X, right, we have two types of text that are coming through. So they're tweets that are coming through. Number one is a full text, which is this one right here. Number two is note text, okay, which is this one. So what this means is that if their tweet is longer, all right, and it has read more, the full text actually won't show the full actual tweet, okay? But there will be an extra input item here called note text, if that's the case. So essentially in here, what I've done is, all right, is that I've made the code here to say, all right, if note text exists, okay, replace the full text with the note text and output the note text. All right. If the note text does not exist, all right, just output the full text. All right. So now that I've done that, we're also going to be getting those long tweets as well. So I'll just see if I can find one here. And, you know, something like this is a good example. So normally, if we just extracted the full text, this would actually be cut off to about here. And this is the only information that we would get, which is, you know, defeats the purpose. It's hard to repurpose. It's hard to reply to. But now we're actually getting the full text, which, you know, allows us to repurpose and reply to them, you know, a lot more easier because we have the full context of the message. After that, we're coming through here and then we have a filter. All right. Now this filter here is doing quite a few things. Number one, we're checking for duplicates. Okay. So essentially we have a tweet ID here. Okay. And we also have a tweet ID that we've already replied to, or, you know, something like that. Now, what I'm doing with the code here is I'm matching the tweet ID that we've just scraped through the API with the one that was already present in the table. All right. So let's say we've been running this all day and then we already replied to some people. Now, if that tweet ID matches something that we've already replied to, then we're not going to pass it through and it gets filtered out right here. All right. Furthermore, we're doing also a removal of tweets that include RT at, which is, you know, a retweet. It doesn't hold any, you know, usefulness for us. And also just tweets that are just links. All right. Because again, how are we going to repurpose that? What are we going to do when we reply to those? They're useless. Now, another thing that's happening here is that we're also filtering out anything that isn't from the last 24 hours. Okay. Because we don't want tweets from 6 months ago or even from last week or even 3 days ago. We want the latest. The reason why that is because if they're the latest tweets, they're the most top tweets, they're going to get the most exposure. And that's what we're going off here. We want to get exposure to our accounts. That's why we're replying to them. And then after that, we're going through and replying to the users. So I'm just going to turn that off so I don't, you know, reply to the same people all the time. And we'll just run this one. So we can see straight away, this one here is running at a 4-hour, 48-minute interval. All right. First thing we're doing is getting the tweets. So we see all the tweets, and these are just all the tweets that are in the user tweets right here. All right. And we're just outputting those tweets in through the automation so that we can access the, you know, the conversation IDs and whatnot that I discussed previously. I'm just taking that data with a set node. So we have the tweet ID, we have the tweet itself, the time posted, because the actual tweet ID is going to be crucial for us to reply to. The tweet itself is what's going to be handed to the AI agent so that it knows, you know, what this tweet is even about. And the time posted is going to be passed through the code node right here, because what this code is doing is now finding out of all of these, which is the most recent tweet. All right. So we can see right here, this one here at 10:06:23 is the most recent tweet. And yes, that is correct, because we can see right here, the May the 10th is the most recent tweet. Now that's being passed through to an AI agent. And this AI agent just has a very simple little prompt user message up the top here. So I just said, create a reply to this tweet. And I've put the expression, all right? So I've just dragged the tweet over, put it in here. Now as a result, that's the tweet that we're replying to right here, all right? So this is what the agent is actually going to be looking at and then learning how to reply to it. Now opening up the system message right here, very, very simple, straightforward system message. And this is what I'm trying to do, you know, all the time now, is keep my prompts and everything very concise, very condensed, and very compact. So right here we can see you reply to tweets using only the provided text. We have the instructions, you know, generate a reply to the provided text. Always use the reply X tool to send the tweet. And then we have constraints. So no emojis or hashtag. That's completely up to you. If you do want to use them, you know, take that out. Under 20 words, okay? Because I don't want it to be generating, you know, these long paragraph bloody things. We're trying our best to avoid generic AI phrasing. So things like when it says like experience and discover and things like that, we don't want it to be talking like that. And never adding extra commentary, because we don't want it to be saying things like, oh, I've successfully posted that tweet off, or anything like that. We don't need it. We just need a tweet to be posted. Done. That's going to reduce our token, you know, outputs as well, and reduce our overall costs. And then we just have the reply tone and the persona. In this case, I've just said 16-year-old Gen Z, casual slang, playful, self-aware, style, and the goal as well. Now, this is where, you know, if you're at home, you wanted to do this yourself, you'd be changing, you know, based on what you want. If you want it to be more based on your type of writing style, if you want it based on a particular celebrity and how they write, your favorite authors, this is where you're going to be changing it. And then after that, we're just updating our status. So we do have the status over here, and if it's done, you know, it's already been passed through and it's all successful. This is going to be changed from not done to done, and that just allows, you know, our actual automation to not pick this actual, you know, same one again, and only pick the ones that are not done right here. Okay, so looking at the model as well that I'm using, you can see I'm using 4.1 mini. And you might be wondering, why am I using 4.1 mini? No particular reason. All I'm going to say though is that it's very reliable, and I do want, you know, to have a reliable model. I'm using a memory as well, but I'm hard coding the memory. Okay, so I'm not using a session ID, I'm hard coding it. Now, why is that? Well, I just have a context window of 10 here, but I just wanted to understand how it's replying to its previous tweets as well, you know, to get a good understanding of how it's, you know, generating each response. Okay, so I've just set that at a context window of 10. And then we do have the model here. Now, if you do want to change this to 4.1, if you want to change to Claude 3.5, 3.7, yeah, you definitely could. There's no issue with that at all. But just always choose a reliable function calling model. And that's pretty much how that whole section of the automation runs. Okay, now coming over here on this side, we have the get top tweets. Okay, so in this case, we have a different endpoint URL. All right, in this case, we're using the search, the /search endpoint. Okay, at the end of the URL, rather than before we're using the usernames, this one we're using the search terms. The search terms are generated from the search terms right here, which are going to be placed in here. However, when you actually place these in, for Twitter to actually pick it up, we do have to use this right here. So I'm just going to run this until here, and we'll click test step, and I'll just show you really quickly what this actually looks like. So you'll see over here, we have the search term, which is AI news, like AI space news, okay? But if we put AI space news into a URL, that won't work, okay? If we take out the space, well, then now it doesn't make sense. So what we have to do is we have to add in a percentage and 20 in between all, like in place of all the spaces that we use. So in this case, I've used another code node to essentially just generate those symbols and those numbers in place of the spaces. All right, so we don't even have to think about anything again, manually putting in there ourselves. What this code is going to do is going to take our search terms, it's going to add in that percentage and 20, and then put it across, and then we have the, you know, already ready to go search term right here, which is going to be important for our HTTP request, because that's going to be right at the end, and it's always going to work. Okay, now in this case here, we just have the count set to 5. We have the category of latest, okay, because we want to be getting in all the latest information, all the latest tweets. And now we're setting in filters here as well. So I do have language set to EN, which is for English, obviously. All right. If you don't want English, you wanted Chinese, you know, or if you wanted some other language, this is where you could change it. Minimum like counts. All right. So this actually means favorites in terms of Twitter and X. But, or favorites, is it? Yeah, I think it's favorites, yeah. And basically, we are only extracting the tweets which are performing with a minimum of 50 favorites, okay? So if they're below 50, we don't want anything to do with it. Then we're also doing a include retweets false, because we don't want, you know, retweets are pointless for us. Remove replies true, because if it's just replies to some random, again, no use for us. And then remove posts with links, because we just want to focus on accounts that are just, you know, not doing sponsored ads and all this crap. We just want to focus on accounts that are generating good tweets. Now, to find these X accounts as well, what you're going to do, you're going to jump over to X, and what you're going to find here are people in your niche that are posting things that are just like tweets. So if we look right here, okay, we can see this guy here is posting like all these tweets and everything like that. Okay, this is the kind of content that we want to be doing. I'm not saying, you know, I don't even know what he's talking about, this guy, but these are the kind of tweets that we want to be repurposing, that we want to be scraping. We don't want to be scraping the tweets that are just posting videos only, or that are just posting images with nothing, right? We want to be posting and repurposing and scraping all the tweets which have nice tweets just like this. Okay, so this is crucial for everything to run really smoothly, for our repurposing, for our replying. And this is, the highest performing kind of tweets that we can work with. But essentially here, everything that's happening on the bottom line is very, very similar, okay? So we have the reply to the top tweets, and this is now just generating those replies and then repurposing those tweets as well, which is just going to repurpose the top scrape tweets that we did in the previous steps. Now coming over here as well, we're going to be clearing out our Google Sheets, because if we don't clear it out, all right, and because assume we run this for 6 months, all right, and it's just running on autopilot, it's just going, our actual Google Sheets are going to be filled with rows of data, right, of tweets, of this, that, all this nonsense, right? So what we're doing here, we're just setting this at a 24-hour, 7-minute interval, and we're clearing it out. Everything is cleared from from the user tweets and top tweets, so that every day we have a clean slate. We don't have to manually go in and delete everything as well. It's all cleared out. And then down here, all we're doing is putting in our own username. So you can see I have my own username right here. Now, if you do want to run that, we would be moving the manual trigger, all right? And we would just run this right here. All right, so that's done there as well. So we can see this is all uploaded. Now I have my username, my follow accounts, my likes, and then I can just remove that because we don't have to use that again, okay? That's already done. The information stored in our database, we never have to do it again. And then basically what this is going to be doing is tracking the account growth over time. So if I just run this right here, and I'll explain how this works as well. So here we have our username again, all right? So the same similar concept. We're bringing it through an HTTP request, all right? And this is using the get user data one, the same endpoint, the same method, everything. What we're doing after that is cleaning the account. So exactly the same thing again. We're getting only those certain fields, putting them through and outputting only that information. And then we're getting the actual data from our account that's currently on the account. So the last 24 hours, we're getting all that information. We're then passing it through a compare code right here, okay? So it's comparing the data that's currently in our Google Sheets, all right, and comparing with the new data that we literally just scraped, 5 seconds ago. And then determining what is, the performance difference and, how many more followers we're getting, how many more likes and favorites and whatnot that we're getting, and then uploading the new data into our Google Sheet. And then after time, we can see, oh, okay, after 6 months, we got, 5,000 more followers or whatever it may be, okay? And that's pretty much how it works. Now, the whole setup's going to be in my school community as well. So if you do want to just download it, upload it, get ready in about 5 minutes and start running it, feel free to do that as well. Happy to see you there. But if I don't see you there, I'll see you in the next video.